So, I have a few topics that I want to talk about. And I guess the first one that comes to mind is living as an a socially living as a socially anxious extrovert. So, I guess I should define what I classify as an extrovert. I define an extrovert as someone who gains energy from hanging around with people, and an introvert is someone that feels drained. And while I think we all get drained from presence, there, there's there's people that gain more energy in the short term, and people that gain or that feel drained in the short term. But at the end of the day, people need their alone time and me time. But I want to jump directly into my reflection as being a socially anxious extrovert. So my social anxiety 100% comes from perfectionism and insecurities, obviously, but it's not simply the insecurity of what do people think of me. It's the insecurity of me thinking to myself, oh, I have to be perfect. And this usually comes in the form, oh, this usually follows a performance or precedes. Yeah, it precedes up a performance that I do, whether it's a speech, whether it's performing on stage. I have a really anxious feeling, but the moment I just start doing it, it gets better 100%. And that same anxiety, those pregame nerves, I feel that before every conversation, before every hangout, before meeting people, before introducing myself, because I feel as if I need to make a perfect impression and I need to be as optimal as possible. Because as I said, as I've mentioned earlier in my videos, I have tried to live as optimally as possible, and then I've only now realized that is not the way to do it, and that only leads to burnout, frustration, and waning motivation. So living as a socially anxious extrovert is difficult because I love talking with people. I love socializing, obviously, and just there's something that brings me joy about human connection. And I know that speaks for everyone, but the reason I speak so fondly of it and I feel it and I emphasize and I make it a big deal compared to others is because I don't think I've had many true connections where I've actually unmasked who I am. Because I'm scared of people finding out my true identity and not liking me. So I've suppressed my identity, and as a result, I forget when to take that mask off. When I went to high school, I put on this mask of when I went to specific classes, I went on and put the mask on being this really smart kid that everyone should should like think so highly of. But then when I'm with like friends, I put on like this silly mask, but nothing like truly me because I would I felt unsafe revealing who I was because naturally I am a pretty laid back person that but at the same time cares too much about some things. And I'm a bit arrogant. I'm a bit egotistical. I think I'm better than everyone at times. And I'm learning to heal myself because I've realized most of this comes from like childhood. The reason I'm a socially I find it, I don't know. I ooh wow, difficult time speaking. But the reason I have anxiety when speaking to others, and the reason I don't feel and connect with so many people, is because I did not have the best family dynamics in my house. I think no, I definitely have a dysfunctional family dynamic in my household where it was both a place of safety and a place of how do I even put it? I would neglect and abuse are strong words, and they definitely lean toward that category. But it would be unfair and a bit ignorant of me to say that I was completely in the right without factoring in my parents' perspectives of like what they went through. So I will just leave it as everyone was disconnected and isolated from each other. A true family wasn't a thing. And this this dysfunctional dynamic only exacerbated the moment my family separated because my dad works in a different city on the weekdays and we live in a different city, so he has to drive a couple of hours to get here. And he's basically in the second part of like my life from when I was 11 years old to now, I grew up with a absent and a group of like an absent father figure. And there are times when I envy people who truly lost their fathers. And this is not because I'm jealous that they lost it, but I'm jealous that they can for like fully just say I don't have one right now. I don't have a father figure. And while it feels like I don't, objectively I do. So it's this battle of I don't truly have a father figure and I don't truly have true personal connections. I don't have it as great as many people think, but I have it better than most. And then it's this like mindset of positivity of it could only be worse, so I should be grateful for what I have right now. That keeps me pushing in the naders of my life. When dark clouds storm over my joyful personality and I start lashing out at people randomly. And I've only now started to realize that me lashing out is only a symptom of what's going on. I get irritated whenever my parents speak to me. And even if it's just them asking for something, the most simplest thing, pick up the remote, give me some water, or do this thing, I just get irritated. And that's only a symptom. Being a socially anxious extrovert is also a symptom of that underlying root cause of never really feeling loved. That's why I'm a people pleaser. It's a symptom. It's not a condition. It's I never felt understood or accepted. And now saying it, that's such a difficult thing for me to wrap my head around and even admit, because even I still want to say, "Oh, I didn't have it that bad." But as I look on it, mentally I had it bad. Like most immigrant households, or just most low income marginalized community households, emotions and mental health aren't the most spoken about topics, and people in the family, in the household, tend to forget about mental health and about its importance to keeping a stable family. And to only make the family dynamic worse, it's as I grow older and I mature and I start to develop my own character, my own beliefs, and I start to realize the trauma upon me and how this affected me, it makes me think of my younger brother. And I voice my opinion strongly with my family whenever they do something that, I don't want to say this, but obviously is hurting my brother. And there are times when my brother is clearly uncomfortable with what's going on or what my parents are speaking about him. And I say, don't talk about that. But they are too prideful to admit that they are hurting their own son, and they classify it as, oh, it's all love and joking around and it's okay because we're parents. That mentality is just stupid. There shouldn't be it's okay just because we gave birth to you. That's very transactional. And being a family or loving someone for who they are shouldn't be transactional. That's conditional love. It should be unconditional. And only until I've met my partner have I truly known what unconditional love was. Or I've truly met my mentors that I knew what unconditional love was. Because I don't think I've ever felt truly loved. Because in order to feel truly loved, you need to be truly yourself. And I'm so scared to be truly myself. And the reason I'm so scared to be truly myself is because I haven't been truly loved. And the only way to break that cycle is to take that risk. And I'm terrified to take that risk of to be myself, to let people down, and to be selfish for me, because all I've known is transactional love, conditional love, relationships that rely on outdated traditions and trauma that sparks trauma in others. That's all I've known. And to the outside world, especially my peers at high school, they think I've had it so great. They think I go home and I study and I do well on tests and I'm just an overall smart person, but that's not even half the story. I started doing academics because I liked it, and but my parents will still like to argue that it's because they rewarded me, and I guess that's a factor too. They rewarded me. I didn't grow up on social media. I had very limited internet access, so my creativity and childhood innocence and imagination ran rampant compared to most kids these days, or just most kids my age, my peers. But I was just generally a curious kid, and I love learning, and I love knowledge, and I love art, self expression, music. Everything about the world just seems so fascinating because that's all I had. That was the information that I found interesting. Everything was interesting because everything I wanted my head I wanted to wrap my head around everything. And this curiosity is what drove me until I moved away and I lost that support system and I lost a few other things. I'm already forgetting like what I said. I What did I talk about? Oh my goodness, I'm excuse me, I seriously forgot. I was talking about parents. I was talking about me being an innocent kid. Oh man, that was a good train of thought too. I guess I'll just synthesize the self reflection and realization I've had right now that I haven't been loved for who I want to be or who I am by anyone else but my partner and for in forever in a long time. And my family is dysfunctional and it makes me hate life and hate myself even though I shouldn't hate myself. I finally caught my train of thought. And but the reason I was so curious is because but now I'm so curious and I still like knowledge and going to school is because it's an escape from whatever's happening in this house. It's a place for me to feel as if I'm in control, to do things that I want to do and be good at something. But along the way, it developed into a narcissism and it developed into narcissism and an ego that makes me not love it for the knowledge and learning, but love it for me being better and better than others and saying I'm the best. And I've completely lost sight of who I was. And it's partly because I never was loved for who I was. So, by our brain's reward system, why should I continue to do that if I'm not feeling rewarded? That's not how our brain's internal calculations work. But it's weird because I'm human and I still am emotional. I get emotional. Actually, no. Now that I think about it, I was originally going to say that I get emotional at like pictures of my parents before, like younger versions of my parents, younger versions of me, younger versions of our family. And I say, oh, I'm gonna do it for them, but and then say that's a bit hypocritical because I say I don't like them, but I have to realize that people have changed, especially in 10 years. People definitely change in 10 years. So when I say I do it for them, I do it for that ideal perception I had of my parents when I was younger. That ideal perception of life I had when I was younger. So I guess now I can talk about, yeah, I dove deep into that, but I want to talk about college and not the summer melt part. Just I mean, partially about the summer melt part because I don't think I dove too deep into it. So obviously, that's where I'm headed to. I had to choose between Stanford and Princeton. It was a difficult choice because I really wanted to go to Stanford. And that's why I chose it because I wanted to do me. But part of me was always thinking to myself, but what if I'm wrong? What if Princeton liked me better or fit me better, fit my personality? So, of course, I get flown out to Princeton and I visit Stanford, and the vibes at Princeton were just so much better. The people were so much more honest, the people were so much more human. Stanford felt so fake. Like it's Silicon Valley, but everything just felt like plastic. And I guess that's a very I guess that's similar to silicone and rubber in that aspect. You know, it's manufactured. It's not natural. It's disgustingly fake. And it just leaves such a bitter taste in my mouth because everyone there just thinks they're better. Everyone there feels as if they deserve things or they they have earned it, but they didn't really earn it. It's just horrible there. But there's niches to be found, and I want to start my own company. And there's no better place to do that than a place like Stanford. So I choose it because I don't want to have an excuse that I couldn't make a startup. You know, if I went to Princeton and I told myself, "Oh, I'm at Princeton," you know, it's not really known for startups, and I can't make my own business. But if I go to Stanford, the place known for startups, the place known for tech, and I tell myself, "Oh, I can't do this," then I know I'm lying. And even if I went to Princeton and I told myself I knew I would be lying, but this is the place that I chose, and I chose it for me. So, speaking on the people that think they're better than everyone, you know, I met someone during admit weekend and we were also talking about colleges. And he just goes to criticize other colleges. Like, yes, objectively, that college, I won't be name dropping it, but objectively, that college is worse than Stanford. But the tone and the way they acted just left a bitter feeling in my mouth. And, but I have to understand that maybe that's who they are and they don't mean it in a wrong way. and I can't hold any negative energy toward them because what does that negative energy do? It doesn't do anything. If I feel as if I'm not being valued, then I can just leave because that's being an adult and being in college. I can make friends with whoever I want and I can end those friendships whenever I want. But like I said, there's niches to be found, and I found a few people that I truly vibe with. I find people that truly resonate with, wait, you can be philosophical, you like this interest, and you can be silly at times. Like they gently just match my personality, and it's beautiful. It gently makes me emotional thinking about how this could possibly be an actual friendship that I made not because of situation, but because I choose to make a friendship. It's not high school where we're all placed and we have to choose from that. No, the sampling size is so massive at any university, and I get to choose that person because I want to choose that person. But at the same time, it's overwhelming. And it's not just the number of people there. Well, that's a big factor, but it's also the privilege my peers have had. All of them are basically more advanced at math than I am, and I just have to accept that. I went from being one of the best math students at my high school to being completely average at college, in college. And that's definitely a feeling that I can actually get used to. But it's difficult to get used to. I know I can, but I need to adjust. It's it's 10:13 right now. I'm getting pretty tired because I'm trying to fix my sleep schedule. So I guess I'll end it here. But to recap a few things, my attitude towards life and anxiety I feel comes from feelings of inadequacy, feelings of inadequacy as a result from a lack of true love. And I'm terrified for college, but I'm excited to see what it holds because being terrified means it's new. It's pushing me outside my comfort zone. And that's the only way to grow as a person.